Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of the Sunday Drive. The Sunday Drive is sponsored by Midtown Mattress and Home Furnishings in downtown Lindsay. They have so much more than just mattresses though. They have home furnishings, home decor, and they now carry Ashley furniture. So if you need something for your home, check out Midtown Mattress and Home Furnishings in downtown Lindsay. Today I'm so excited to have Nicki Dedes here. And Nicki is the co-owner with her husband Costas of the Olympia Restaurant on Kent Street in Lindsay. The Olympia is one of the oldest businesses in the city of Kawartha Lakes, circa 1906, meaning it's 119 years old. Wow. We are going to talk to her about the history of the business. We're also going to talk to her about how she infuses her Greek heritage into the business and some of the other work her family has done as well in the city of Kawartha Lakes. So sit back and relax and enjoy this edition of the Sunday Drive. Okay, we are back with Nicki Dedes. Nicki, as I said, is the co-owner of the Olympia Restaurant here in Lindsay, which this year is 119 years old. And it began as a candy store. Tell me a little bit more about the history of the business.
1906, yeah, that is going to reach a milestone next year, 120, oh my goodness. So the restaurant was called Olympia Candy Works. The owners, the people that establishment, the Baca-George family, Tony Baca-George and siblings, cousins of his generation in the late 1800s that had come to Canada, opened up the Olympia as a, like a palace. It was one of a kind in Lindsay at the time, and the beautiful chrome and stainless and marble and terrazzo and penny tiles and beautiful chandeliers for decor that we've seen from the pictures that we've had been given over the years, but also the fact that they made ice cream, they made candies and fine chocolates there in the restaurant that they sold, and then they retailed as well. The Baca-Georges sold the restaurant to Mr. and Mrs. Tozio sometime in the 1920s from what we understand, and then she was widowed unfortunately and young, and so she ran the restaurant on her own with staff and eventually her two sons, and she had it for 50 years. And so we were the third family in 1980 where there was a clean.
So now you've had it for 45 years.
45, yeah. Yeah, gosh.
And when did it turn into a restaurant?
It would have happened under the Tozio family, sometime after World War One, or between the world wars, somewhere in there, where ice cream would have been just a luxury item and such. So they always maintained ice cream, but they put a kitchen in to service the community. And it's been Olympia Candy Works, and then when the Tozio had it, it was the Olympia Tea Room. And then when my parents took it over, Chris and Kathy Kirkabasis is their name, it was the Olympia Restaurant.
So what is it about the restaurant industry that has kept you involved for so long?
Right. Well, we've been able to meld our family life and weave it with the restaurant, and being hands-on operators. My parents were hands-on operators. Front of house, back of house, my parents combined their skills and their interests together, and so there was always a mesh and a melding of their skills and their caring, and combined together they were a real dynamic team. So that was my lesson, that was my mentoring from my parents. So we grew up in a very positive but busy and very demanding environment. So when I met my husband, who I met in the restaurant, by the way, we did not intend that we would operate a restaurant, let alone the Olympia Restaurant, but it turned out that way, and we're happy we've done it.
How did that come to be?
Which part?
Owning the restaurant, you and your husband deciding to take it
Oh,
over.
yeah. Well, my parents were very resistant to changes, and I was thinking we should do this, and my brother's thinking we should do that, and so we started, shall we say, kind of fooling them, tricking them. They went to Florida one time, and we closed the restaurant without saying anything, had it all organized, and we moved the kitchen, which my parents had in front of the restaurant, to the back of the kitchen.
While they were away.
While they were away. Built a bar.
Oh
where
my
the bar
gosh.
is now is where the kitchen used to be, because my parents moved the kitchen to the front back in 1980 so that they could be hands-on and see every customer coming and going,
Right.
and be right on top of things. And it worked for them tremendously well, but we had different ideas. So anyway, they came back and they were pleased. So that was the beginning of more changes happened until incrementally it's like, we got to do this. And so we did. We bought the restaurant and then retired my parents.
And was it your dad, Chris, who was a counselor for 17 years in the city?
Yeah, my father, Chris Carcabasis. Yeah, he always had an interest in civics and in being part of political life, and so he got involved, and boy did he ever. So it was 17 years
That's
of
a long
meetings and sessions, and so he had dignitaries and diplomats that came from Athens and from Ottawa, from Greece, from wherever there were people, because his swath of circle was so wide, and so all these ministers came from wherever they came from, Queen's Park and such. So many names I don't even remember. I have to start looking through my dad's archives to remember. But as far as Canadian prime ministers, a few have visited the restaurant on my dad's welcome, or an event. An election is always happening in this riding, and so I remember Stephen Harper stopping through the restaurant not once but twice, and then Joe Clark, Kim Campbell, and there would have been other people after that, but nobody of that level since then. But certainly people like premiers of Ontario have come, many of them, for different elections, campaigning in this area. When I mentioned before about retiring my parents, their dream was to go to Greece and have a little olive farm. So when we, in their perspective, we pushed them out, but really it was the best thing so they could live their dream. They fixed themselves up restored a little farmhouse, and had some property of different olives and different varietals. But nevertheless, my dad and mom went right into growing and harvesting olives and olive oil, and local co-ops in the village, because that whole village and that whole area is plentiful in olives and olive groves. So they would keep a little bit of olives and olive oil for the house there in Greece to enjoy over the year, and the rest they would get it canned and packaged, put on a boat and sent here to Canada. And so of course the restaurant would buy it all, and we would use it in all our recipes, and became part of our menu with the olives and the olive oil. And if we had a bumper crop year, or if they did, then of course we'd sell the olive oil too. So a big proud point for my parents. So they enjoyed that till they decided to get out of it in their older years, and they sold it to my cousins that are in the village, so they're carrying on.
Still in the family.
And still in the family, more or less, but it's a village where everybody's kind of related to everybody anyway, but still proud. And we are buying olives from my cousins that harvest it in the Greece.
So tell me, where is your favorite spot in the city of Kawartha Lakes?
Without hesitation, Fenland Falls. When we were growing up, my parents had bought a cottage in Fenland, just before Fenland, Elliott Street, and down Raby Shore, as it would have been known at that point, maybe still is. So a humble place, but we grew up there every weekend and most of the summer, because we could close the restaurant and be up there in 20 minutes and enjoy at the lake. Valentine's is Friday this weekend, and Friday of a long weekend because it's family day on Monday, right?
Great.
So we're gonna have a special dinner on Friday as well as Saturday because it's the weekend, and special menu plus our regular menu. Live entertainment both Friday and Saturday, local jazzy kind of bluesy environment, and we plan to have a good time.
And can you foresee a third generation of your family taking over the restaurant?
It's a possibility. We're in discussions about succession planning now because we should be thinking about doing other things for the rest of our life too, but our kids still work with us, which is really great. So I'm super proud of my family wanting to be with us and connected with the community as a consequence. So we have a big, large life, shall we say.